And here we are. Welcome back to Wilson Time, boys.
Week 10.
Week 10. It's crazy that we are this far along. How the time flies.
I
Time
know.
flies
It's
when
like
you're having fun. At
we're three-quarters of the way through the season almost. Trade deadline approaches Thursday.
least some of us are having fun. Others are stressing. Once again, I'll say fantasy is bad for your health.
I think that's a consensus at this point. I think everybody realizes that fantasy is not good for anybody's health.
I feel like if you went into a doctor's office, it would be like a clinical, you know, I can't think of the right terminology, but
Diagnosis
yeah, there you go.
is like medical terminology for stress because of fantasy football.
Exactly. Depression, anxiety, all these things would come into it. But here we are,
Yeah.
continuing to torture ourselves. So, week 10, what a week it was. Joe Mixon absolutely shit on me. Yeah, good job, Gobby. Appreciate you.
Yeah, he didn't listen to me in the that game. I was like, leave some for the other Bengals. And he was like, no, I'm going to catch them. I'm going to run them. I'm going to do it all.
God, I just immediately I woke up and I was like, there's a chance that I had a bunch of players on bye, no Jamar Chase still. I was like, oh, there's a chance that I could squeak out a victory this week. And Joe just ended that very quickly. My fantasy day was done before it even began. So that was
Yeah,
fun.
super, super tough. You don't like it whenever somebody's scoring the most points in our league history on you in a single week. Just one player by himself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Joe almost had as many points as COD put up for the entire day.
Yeah, it's not good.
COD. Just like clockwork, buddy.
Mama's Mare Milker.
Mama's mare milker.
The three M's.
Yeah, but here we are, week 10. I don't know. Anything crazy from last week that you want to touch on besides Joe Mixon shitting on me?
Mm, not necessarily. I say the one thing that we've all predicted and we've talked about it before, the demise of B. Johns. He's slowly slipping down, and right now he's in this tough stretch where he's just facing all like essentially top five teams for the next few weeks. So strong possibility that he might be battling for those lower tier playoff spots if he has the chance.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the remaining strength of schedule, and it's really starting to show face here. I don't really know for little Boner B. Johns. His boner is losing blood quickly.
Yeah, no, it's definitely tough. I was glad I could put him down a little bit further than what he was, you know, I'm sure he wasn't hoping to score as few of points that he did, which, I don't like that either because it looks like I just basically didn't have to do anything for my victory. But I guess shitting on him by almost 30 plus points is nice too.
No, don't feel bad about that. Yeah, you want to. Anytime you get to play B. Johns, you want to just completely demolish the man.
I know it's just that my points allowed are going down and down. So, but I'm also top four in scoring. So I guess that kind of makes up for it because when you have one of the fewest points allowed against you, you just think to yourself, like, oh, you know, some of these I might be just getting lucky with, but I guess if I'm averaging like top four most points per game, I guess I can just kind of hang my hat on that.
No, you can't control what the other person does. So, um, but one thing I will say, and I know Nut talks about statistics and everything, it's just, with the extra week added on this year, is there a possibility that B. Johns just completely misses the playoffs? Are we going to have a number one seed for more than half the season slip out and miss those playoffs? I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and he's 6-3. Potentially after this week, depending on how the deal then does, could drop to 6-4. And just how tight those last couple spots are and the points for him being so low.
Yeah,
Could he miss
he
the
only
playoffs?
he only faces one tier three team the rest of the way. Everybody else he has three tier one teams and then one tier two team. So there's a strong possibility. I guess it really just depends though if Jonathan Taylor comes back and kind of does Jonathan Taylor type things. Jeff Saturday, who knows? Maybe he's a guru. but I don't think that's going to change much. And also, that ankle's been nagging him. Like, I feel like this is the second one he's had this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of like shut him down because the season's kind of lost at this point, just instead of like risking him getting injured long term.
So he plays Dealden this week, quality opponent. He's got the Queen Machine the following week, another quality opponent. And then he's got Jaden, another quality opponent. Week 13, got Brian. Okay, give him that one. So what? We'll say 1-4.
Possibly.
And then he's got Calvin to finish off the year.
Yeah. So I think how fitting Calvin versus B. John's the end of the year, and potentially those two could be a game that could handle both their fates in the league.
Oh
Maybe
man,
a nice talking point for next year's draft that can go on for hours on end.
Oh God, I actually really hope there's a lot of good shit talking that week between those two. Love to see it. That's the argument that I actually sit in on and be willing to listen to for a couple hours. Hopefully, some more draft cash gets bet before Calvin backs away all of his draft or trades away all of his draft cash.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be interesting. But yeah, no, I say that was one of the few things that I think this week. Obviously, Mitch is right in the hot hand. He's the hot team in the league right now. 2 straight games of 125 plus points.
Nuts been looking pretty solid too. What?
Yeah, 2 wins in a row. Is it 2 wins? 2 wins in a row.
2 wins, but I think he has 3 weeks over 100 points.
Three. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely with Nuts team.
Wait, two. Really, excuse me.
Yeah. Nuts team it's pretty remarkable the things that he's went through this year, and then also being able to max out his draft cash at 250, and now he's still sitting at 3-6, and you never know. That was me last year, and this could be Nuts year. Who knows? Travis Etienne looks like a bona fide top 10 running back recently. So
they use condom. Who would have thought?
Yeah, one of the few used condoms we have in this league. One of them just got laid to rest with Michael Pittman, and the other one, Travis Etienne, decided, and that he was ready to go for a few more rides.
Yeah, he wasn't filled up quite a bit.
He's like, I got plenty more room in here, boys. Come on.
Yeah, keep filling me up. Oh man.
Yeah. So no, it's a testament to Nets said that he was going to go with their approach this year with selling his team off in a methodical way instead of just getting big lump sums of cash at a time and just dumping off players and stuff. So he's done his thing, and it looks like it's paying off for him a lot more than it did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, tough loss for Jesse. I honestly thought he was going to pull that victory out.
Yeah,
but,
it was like the first quarter, and then after that, like nothing.
Yeah, it was
they just
wild.
ran. Oh God, they just run the ball. I said in group me, I hate watching the Ravens play because they win, but it's like it's one of those offenses that's it's just very bland. Like you're just running the ball over and over. You're using 30 seconds of the play clock. Like you're just eating up the clock, and you're just wasting everybody all the time at that point.
And I think pretty sure it's Troy Aikman that was saying it. There was one play where in the second half where Isaiah Likely broke off and Lamar just like overthrew him just barely, and that would have been a huge chunk of yards. Probably would have put Jesse over the top. It would have, and so crazy game there for them. And then
Pate coming down to an extra point.
Pate keeping crap bag crappy. Love to see it.
Yeah, a few things in life are consistent, and it's crap bag losing every week. So
yeah, setting that record too. Man, he holds a lot of records, and now he just added to it. And I love that he owns this record for most consecutive losses. I mean,
well, see, and there's those things, right? And it's definitely with COD where you always he has a championship, but then you always bring back like his multiple sackos and stuff. Is this one of those things where we can just give Gare shit for the rest of the time in the sense that you have multiple championships, but you also had a season where he still has yet to get a win. Like, who knows? We could be talking about an 0-11, 0-12, potentially 0-14 team. If it gets to that point, I mean, that'd be crazy. Like, I don't think you can really live that down. I'll,
Well, I will do my best this week to keep the streak going. I feel like it's a trap game,
also,
but
Nuts just a little bit closer to getting to that 90 win mark.
yeah, inching his way.
Yeah, Gare's
Um,
not getting there anytime soon, not until next year at least.
yeah, not until next year. And then COD taking his L to be expected.
Yeah.
One step
Um,
away to close to that Sacco, my boy.
well, one thing I also wanted to just point out was um, great trade between Cal and Diz there. Tanner getting 3 points out of the two players you started this week, and Devontae just going off to be wide receiver one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
How ironic it is that Diz would have won this week if he would have kept Devontae. But, I was sitting there watching the games with him and Cal's like, that's not going to mean the trade. It's Pollard. It's like the hog out of that trade, Pollard. I'm like, well, the hog was Devontae. So
yeah,
let's
and
get that
I
straight.
was yeah. Also, Michael Carter, like we were expecting him to continue his role with the Jets. And last week he played great, and that's kind of what you know, like Tony Paul. Like we talked about this is like depth, but once Brees Hall went out, it was kind of like, oh, you have Michael Carter. Like that's like a viable person you can put in as like a flex play or like in case you need a bye week fill in. I just don't understand. You didn't need to. You didn't. I don't think you needed the extra running back and keeping Devontae Adams. He's a top 5 wide receiver, so it's just. But we've talked enough about it.
Yeah, the lack of faith in Death Nation. Come on, Diz, you got to ride with your squad, right? Ride or die.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like you losing the faith.
But there's whispers of him becoming more of a Cowboy fan, so I am all for
Oh
that.
God, that's
Can never
not
have
good.
enough Cowboy fans.
I could use another Patriot fan, and Dizzle seems like he seems like a good
Like a Bill,
cheerleader almost.
like a Belichick boy.
Yeah, hop on the belly train, bud.
God, we definitely
But
don't
yeah,
need more Pat fans.
no, I think we do. But besides that, let's get into this week's matchups and kind of see
Yeah,
what we think is going to happen this week.
yeah. All right, I'll get you going here. So, first matchup, we'll give you Jesse versus Brian.
So Jesse versus Brian, I got Jesse in this one, and there's just a couple different reasons. Oh, it's really coming down to I think even if Josh Allen doesn't play, I still think Jesse takes this one, just based off the points that he scores every week. Like I look at Jesse's team, and it's just fundamentally sound. It's not like I look at it and I'm like, wow. Besides, Josh Allen, and then when Mark Andrews is in there and Dalvin Cook if he goes off, but everybody else is just kind of like, yeah, all right. But they put up consistent numbers. And so I'm just not betting against Jesse on here, where Brian has, I think, maybe 100-point game this year, and Jesse's literally averaging over 100 points every single game this year, and we're in week 10. So I'm taking Jesse on this one, even with Brian having good matchups and, Josh Allen potentially not being there. I still think that Jesse pulls this one out and takes it.
The man just finds a way to get TDs. He's a TD
Again,
magnet.
58 on the year. Might as well just get himself up to 70 at the end of this week.
Yeah, literally.
But if we go now from mine to you, we'll go with Cody versus Mitch. So we got COD versus Gabi.
I love it that Gabi got to pick COD's name too. It's always my favorite when the person gets to pick COD's name and then play him the next week.
It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit closer than I was kind of thinking, just looking at it. With the
Just no
Lamar being
shoes.
out, yeah, still no shoes. Uh, Joe Mixon's out too, but what it came down for me is even with COD getting back, Nick Chubb and Najee, it's more of Cordero Patterson, Professor Pleaser. He's out there putting TDs up right off the bat, which was crazy because they were talking about easing him back into the offense, and as soon as they get on the goal line, which I was watching because obviously like I have Algier, and it's like, oh, they would march down the field, Algier would rack up all these yards, and then here comes Pleaser, just punch it right in, and he could have had a third
Hmm.
TD too. If
He
they
was
didn't
running.
have,
He was running hard too.
yeah, no, he looked good. So, but it really comes down to Gobby's wide receivers, that AJ Brown, DeAndre Hopkins duo there. I mean, AJ Brown's just on a tear right now. DeAndre Hopkins has been eating up so many targets, and he should have had a TD last week if Robbie Anderson didn't like line up improperly. I mean, it's just like the
Hmm.
stupidest penalty you could get. So, and he's got Brandon Ayuk coming back this week. Dude, he just doesn't have the. When we've talked about it before, he just doesn't have the squad. Like outside of Chubb, Murray's not really doing shit. And if he's throwing a TD, he's probably going to Hopkins. So Gobby reaps the benefits of that. But then go look at the wide receivers again. Where's it coming from? Not Thielen. Jacoby Myers, probably his best wide receiver right now, on by. And then old Mr. Samuel out there. I'm not buying it. So I'm going with the guru. Keeps the streak going. I don't think he's going to put up the points he has been because the buys are going to hurt him. But I still think he gets the job done.
It's gonna be a
Um,
pretty good analysis there.
Coming up next, you got Jaden versus Tanner.
Hmm. Yeah. So this one, I'm taking Jaden, and even though Dizzle finally has his boy in there, Tony Pollard, Zeke's possibly back this week, and just Jaden's the same thing, just consistency. Like, but he has players on his team that I look at, I'm like, ooh, like I got googly eyes for, like, you know, Kenneth Walker, just killing it recently. Jalen Hurts, right? Uh, Sun God, Justin Jefferson, Dallas Goddard. Like these players are people that you look at and you're like, those are hogs. And then I look at Diz's team, and there's a couple people on there, right? You got the Derrick Henrys. DK has done really well recently. Miles Sanders, and I think like it's going to be a competitive one, but Diz needs to reach 100 points, and he has a hard time doing that, especially when you're playing a team like Jaden. And I think Jaden just edges him out in this one, even though I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I'm gonna take Jaden. Wait,
That was
who
actually,
was?
yeah. I was supposed to pick their matchup, but so I guess I'll be taking the Pate versus
Yeah.
Brandon
Okay.
one.
Yeah. There we go. Perfect. All right.
But
Yes.
luckily we picked the same. We picked the same on here, so
I just looked at
um,
this. I looked at our notes, and I was like, "Oh, I'm reading." Well,
hey,
regardless, those are.
at least we're
I
not
say I
getting
think.
at least we're not getting people's names wrong like Nut did.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, whatever. I'm still in this one, so I'm going Jaden over Tanner in this one. And for really all those reasons, I,
I
I
mean,
I just think, like I said, I don't think
I think we're
I
thinking
think
the same
Diz
thing.
needs to get over that 100 point mark, and he's just been struggling to even get like any consistency when it comes to scoring week in week out. So
Yeah, when you're playing the top tier teams, it's like if they're average, if they're putting up 100-point games, like you have to, I mean, just like you have to be putting up 100 points. You have to start getting to that threshold. If you don't, it's gonna be very tough playing the top tier teams. And I mean, looking towards the playoffs, like that's where you need to be at. And so it's just not getting there. We haven't seen it. When's it gonna come? Trading away
yeah,
Devontae, not to bring it up again, but I don't know, man. You really gonna need Pollard to step up. Um, so we'll transition over. I'll take your other one there. So
yeah. So Peyton versus Brandon.
Pate versus Brandon. So kind of talking about it earlier, right? I I'm taking Pate. I think the deal then gets a little bit healthier this week. I think Devo might come back. Yeah, it looks like he is. I mean, he's questionable, but I don't know. And also apparently Aaron Jones is actually there's a possibility he could play this week. But even if he doesn't, I think Pate's got the depth between Gibson. Um, I guess he's already starting Dingletary, but even if he has to throw Gibson in there, I like that. Like Gibson's actually been proven to still be productive, even with the Brian Robinson thing going on. So it's just, comes down to Jonathan Taylor, what's happening there. Kind of what you alluded to earlier. I've heard different things where Colts are just so bad this year. And it's kind of like I mean, not trying to purposely tank, but yeah, it's like that's your best player. Are you willing to throw him out there when he's not 100% for what? It's like, I don't really know if they're gonna even fire him back up the rest of the year. And
Um,
believe me, there's been times I wanted to trade for JT. It's just he scares me. He scares me big time right now.
yeah, when you're starting Algier, as your RB2, and he's putting up more points on a weekly basis than Jonathan Taylor. You're like, oh, well,
Yeah, and so it's just I think Pate, between Fast Guy, Tyreek, Debo coming back, D Swift looks like he's healthy again. He's got Kittle back this week. Dingletary, as much as a dog on him, he hasn't been a slouch this year. Um, I think he just right now is more well rounded. And Bijan's just on that decline. It's like, you know, if Saquon and Cooper Kupp aren't going to be the ones, or if they're going to get theirs probably right, but it's like, where does it come outside of that? Paris Campbell, no. Hawkinson, he's been doing all right, but like Herbert's been shitting the bed, and he's playing the 49ers D this week. Like that's tough for them.
mm,
And if they do get Keenan Allen back this week, well, guess what? It's probably all going to Keenan. And so even if Justin Herbert does do anything, Paige is reaping the benefits once again. So,
yeah,
too much.
true.
I think it's just too much for Tron or too much for B Johns to overcome. So I'm taking Tron on it. Deal then keeps going up.
All right. Now, what's my last one here? We got you versus Gare.
Well, that's you picking.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if you were frozen. Like it was like I was like, oh okay. Yeah. I'm taking you on this one. You're gonna get back in the win column, and it's just because it's crap bag. I just don't want crap bag to win, but crap bag also just doesn't. He finally looked like he was gonna get somewhere last week, and I think it's like just fantasy doesn't want him to do well. So let's just keep the trend going. And also, you got CD Lamb back, you got CMC back. Uh, it just depends. You're gonna have to slot somebody in there at QB, but I still think that Leonard Fournette's just not looking like Leonard Fournette at the beginning of the year, and maybe it's the wear and tear, maybe it's the fact they want to get Rashad White a little bit more in there,
What's
bless
up?
up. But yeah, I just don't see where the scoring is going to come from. Jamal Williams has been nice, but Swift, like you said, supposed to get a little bit more work this week. DJ Moore really didn't do anything last week, and we
That's
Baker
for
Mayfield.
me.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield might be back, and Baker doesn't like DJ Moore, so it's
So
just going
does
to be a
not.
tough one for Gary again. I think without Joe Burrow in there, and then you're still waiting for Jamar Chase to come back. Yeah, I still think you're going to score a decent amount. I don't think it's going to be like astronomical, like if you would have had Chase and Burrow, but Crabbag doesn't. He cracks 80 points just only a couple times this year. I think you definitely score over at least 85, 90 points, and you take this one.
Um, yeah, I'm actually happy that they're on by. I need Chase to get a little more rest there and then come on
And,
back and teach.
and then
So,
your last one is myself versus
uh,
Alec.
yeah, so this one will be a tight one. Um, I was looking at it pretty hard. Queener's got a lot of good matchups. I just, so I'm picking you in it, and really the reason is because talent. But yeah, I'm not saying Alec doesn't have talent. It's just I have a hard time looking at like say the Isaiah McKenzie. I'm not a big fan of Scary Terry. I just can't get on board with them. Um, the Bucks D hasn't looked all that great recently. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to Austin Eckler, James Conner's backs. You got Stephon Diggs running out there. Tua's no slouch either this year. And also I understand Patrick Mahomes playing Jacksonville, but I could also see it being one of those games where like maybe they just get up like really big, and which I'm sure Patty will get his right, but I don't think it's gonna be one of those games where Patrick Mahomes needs to throw the ball 60 times again. Like I feel
Yeah,
like he'll go out there and get his, and then maybe this will be the week where they actually. I'm not even saying this because of Clyde Edwards, own or anything, but I feel like they won't have to throw the ball as much, and they'll just try to run the clock, run the ball, try to get that ground game established before the end of the year. So this would be like a good game for them to be like trying to figure out what they're going to do in the run game, right? But
Hmm.
Kareem Hunt, it's been kind of MIA lately. Yeah, it's just Cleaner's got some pieces, but again, it's just like how well rounded is your team? And when I look over at your squad, just you got the Diggs. I like Ertz. Nicole Hardman's actually been doing something. So even without Ramondre in there, it's gonna be fine. I think it's gonna be a close matchup. I'm gonna give you the edge on it, just based off your talent.
Sounds good. I'll take
Yeah, and I
it.
mean, you got Buffalo against Minnesota, so that could be a potential shootout, just meaning more stuff for Diggs. And like,
Yeah, I'm just hoping Josh Allen's fine because if not, Case Keenum, I don't know how old Diggs will do with him.
yeah, but well, I mean, Diggs did play with Case Keenum back in Minnesota too,
It's
and taught
true.
with them. So Diggs is kind of one of those players where I kind of feel like he's matchup proof. I'm not well, yeah, not even matchup proof. I meant QB proof.
Well,
Like
yeah,
the dude started with shitty QB play and became a star, and now
yeah,
obviously he's at where he's at. But
it's true.
um, yeah, no, I'm gonna give you the edge over it.
All right.
That's a hard one to pick, though. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
I say, well, that's what that's what's kind of crazy about some of the top tier teams that are like going into the end of this, like not even I guess all top tier teams, but myself, B Johns, people like that, like we're facing off against some pretty heavy duty guys at the very end of the year. And for me, I'm worried about flex seating, right? So I just know for me, I got to score points and I got to get some dubs. It's not far fetched to say that I can win them all because I feel like my team's good, but also I think it's you know a little bit like too rich to be like I'm going to go undefeated. There's a possibility. There's multiple matchups that I could lose coming up, so this is a very critical time for basically everybody at this point, especially anybody that's in the playoffs or looking for flex seating.
yeah, a lot of it's kind of a crapshoot right now between bye weeks happening, people are dealing with injuries, but and again, it's just kind of like how the matchups are laying out. It's like you got some real tight ones, just kind of like last week. It was like picking between Jesse and Jaden and stuff. I mean, that was like a hard one
Hmm.
to pick between. So,
Yeah.
which leads us to our together picks. So we have Nut versus Cal. Right now, as it stands, Sleeper's got him at 50-50. 91.74 to Nut, 91.67 to Cal. So about as close as you can get.
Yeah. This is a juicer right here because it's funny because we didn't think that Nut would be in this position where we'd be sitting there be like, oh, this guy sold his team and the other guy has bought his team, and we're sitting here thinking to ourselves, wow, this is going to be actually a pretty tight matchup. You would think it's like, oh, it's just going to be a blowout. Like the person that bought all these really good players, right, just going to shit on the dude that sold his team off. It's not the case right now, especially with Justin Fields and what he's been doing.
Oh,
So this
yeah.
one, I think we came with the consensus that we're going to take Nut on it.
Yeah, I'll teach you, Cal.
Fuck yeah, basically, screw you, Cal. But also,
Um,
there's legitimate reasoning to it too.
there is,
These
yeah.
are these are very good matchups for Nuts team. Justin Fields against Detroit, like man, that could be just we know Detroit can score. They haven't been doing as much recently, but we know they can. If it comes to a shootout or something like that, Justin Fields, the guy's he's averaging over 80 yards over the last 4 games just rushing alone. Like,
Dude, yeah, he just broke the record for most rushing yards in a game. I mean,
yeah,
for a QB, it's crazy.
it's
Um,
actually yeah. So I like his matchups this week, and that's the big thing for me.
well, yeah, and you look at it too. Yeah, Kamara versus Pittsburgh. That's a bit of a tough matchup, especially like we were talking about earlier. TJ Watt's coming back.
Hmm.
Um, how healthy is Zeke? Are they going to ease him back into it? I know Jerry's saying that's his boy, but do they ease him kind of back into it, especially if they get up big? Is it going to be more the Pollard show? Um, Tom Brady, Godwin. Godwin hasn't scored a tutty yet this year. I was talking to Cal about that on Sunday. It's like dude's been getting targets and yards, but he can't get in the end zone.
It's like
And
he's the Deontay Johnson of the Bucks right now.
well, and it's when it comes down to is, I mean, I own Mike Evans, but Mike Evans, one of the leaders in the league for red zone targets. When they get down there, they're either trying to run the ball in or they're throwing up to Mike. Godwin's more that dink and dunk most of the time, screenplay, stuff like that. Every once in a
Yeah,
while,
he was like that yak guy, right? The yards after catch, but I think injuries probably, rightfully so for most people that had the amount of injuries he had, probably slowing him down a little bit. Like that was his bread and butter was the yards after catch.
yeah. But I mean, I like Chris Olave. D'Onta Foreman's been teaching. They're playing against Atlanta this week, and he ran all over them a couple weeks ago. ETN's been on a tear, like you said, with Justin Fields. And then the defense is kind of washed themselves out. Like, you get Eagles D versus Washington and Cowboys versus Green Bay. I mean, I feel like both those defenses are gonna
Yeah,
feast. Yeah, it just comes down to matchups and
it
also,
just depend. It just depends, yeah, because running back wise, toss up. There's a possibility. Deontay Foreman did do what he did like a couple weeks ago. Like if he just does that again, like that's wild. Justin Fields against Tom Brady. We're probably going to take Justin Fields right now, which is actually just ridiculous to say. I never
yeah,
thought I would say that in my life. Um, but yeah, I guess the biggest thing is does Devontae Adams, does Alvin Kamara, do they have the games that you would hope that they would have against you know in a matchup like this where it's really tight and close. Like you need one of them to go off in order to like kind of pull you away.
hmm yeah, and and this actually be a pivotal spot in their matchup, but Dalton Schultz against Higbee. Higbee's kind of been on the decline where Schultz has been going up,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean that could be like a deciding factor. I mean, yeah, it's the matchups, and then it's just funny because you look at Nuts team, and I'm like, there's so many players on there that I'd be looking at them like before the beginning of the season, I'm like these guys are irrelevant. Like, there's no way I'd be picking ETN over Kamara, Fields over Brady. I mean, I don't want to pick Foreman over Elliott, but I mean, just as of late, it's like Foreman's just been going off, so it's like can't ignore it.
Yeah, Allen Robinson versus Devontae Adams, dude. Like you could easily take uh,
Uh,
Calvin. Give give Nut Allen Robinson and $7 draft if you take back Allen Robinson. Okay.
oh
All right.
man, but yeah,
But okay, so record wise for us so far, right? Both of us went 3-0 last week, and we literally didn't predict a loss. So you went 3-0, I went 3-0, and then we went 1-0 together. So now you're 23-4 in the year. I'm 19-8, and together we finally hit the 500 mark. So we're making progress. And then this week we're taking that.
uh, I just wonder how crushed Calvin will be if he loses a nut.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one because Cal at this point, he's got to get a lot of points, especially if tiebreaker comes to that point. You know, he's got to at least come out of this. He has to come over. If he loses this week, he's got to go on a tear the rest of the way.
hmm No, I know. And after the trade deadline too, can't get that money back now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's tough. I've been there before. Know the pain. It's like getting your heart ripped out and you're punched in the nuts at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to trades now. So there was only two trades this there was only two trades that happened this week. One of them was kind of like, all right, whatever, but we'll talk about it. And then the other one was there's a couple big names that went along with it. So the first one was, Nut trades Michael Gallup to Gabi for Robert Tunyon and $5 in Fab. And just kind of, I guess, Nut needs some tight ends and he likes getting Fab dollars so he can bid on players. And then I guess Gabi was like, "Huh, maybe Michael Gallup will come out of his shell sooner or later down the road."
Yeah. I mean, I like Michael Gallup as a player. Honestly, yeah. I don't really care about Tunyon, but $5 and Fab. It was a whatever trade. Pretty
Yeah,
meh.
capiche. All right, let's go. Let's go to the
Hear
next one.
about it.
All right, the next one we got Calvin sending Fournette, or yeah, Calvin sending Fournette, Demarcus Robinson, Mike Williams, and Kyle Pitts to Garrett for Kamara, Damian Williams, Justice Hill, and Kate Otten. So this one was kind of like, I think if I look at it right, Calvin's going with the hot hand with Kamara, but then Kamara looked kind of blah last week. And you never know with that Saints offense at this point. It's really weird. Trust me, I've Taysom Hill, so I'm definitely keeping an eye out. Uh,
I want to hear about
but
Taysom Hill.
but I think for Garrett, I think it was a smart move in the sense that Kyle Pitts, the dude had 121 air yards last week, like most out of any tight end by far. So they're trying to get him the ball. And then Mike Williams comes back from IR later on in the year. Can definitely help him out in the consolation bracket. And then Fournette, there's a strong possibility he could be comparable to Kamara by the end of the year, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think for Garrett, it made sense to kind of consolidate that Kamara and be able to round out the rest of his team to fend off a Sacco, right? And so, Garrett's not worried about trying to win out the rest of the season, make the playoffs or anything. He has time to be able to, like Nut was talking about, he can taxi that Mike Williams, be able to utilize him later on. Kyle Pitts has been up and down, but as of late, it seems like they've been actually trying to get him the ball more. And he has had a couple of decent games, so we'll see what kind of plays out of that. And yeah, I'll take Fournette too. I mean, he's no slouch, so you could definitely do worse. For Cal, yeah, it's nice. He's got Kamara, and the schedule for Kamara going forward is pretty good. I was kind of thinking about it when I was watching that Ravens Saints game. It What a difference Roquan Smith makes for the Ravens. Like I love Roquan Smith. I remember him coming out when he played in the Natty with Georgia there. Like I was like, that dude's a hog. And like he's just been wasting away over on the Bears over there. And so for them to get like, I mean, dude, during that game, it felt like Roquan Smith was in every single tackle. And he was like guarding Kamara too, playing coverage on him and stuff. Like he was teaching. So maybe that's just like a product of like what happened with that trade between the Ravens and the Bears, consequently affecting Kamara. But yeah, it was a big trade. I think it made sense for both sides. It's kind of nice to see a trade go through without any draft casts too. Like that still exists out there, so that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the one. Okay, there's two things I want to say. So the first thing was I just still want to reiterate that basically the Bears traded away Roquan Smith for a fifth rounder and Chase Claypool. Just still don't understand that. Guys led the league in tackles like the last 3 years or something like that. Just like I don't get it. And it's Chase Claypool. So, but yeah, Roquan Smith for a fifth rounder and Chase Claypool. You could trade anybody in the league right now, and you could basically give them away for free at this point. And then the second thing I wanted to say was, I don't understand I don't understand why isn't Gary just max out the draft cash here? Cal would give him $3.
Yeah. I
Just
don't know.
max it out.
I know. I mean, we both sold our teams before and stuff, and it's like
take away Demarcus Robinson.
Yeah.
I bet you anything you take away Demarcus Robinson $3, Cal, and Cal would be like, I want Kamara, so here you go, $3.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're talking to the guy in our league that's most willing to give up their draft cash. Like, could have got $3 from Cal for sure. Yeah, I mean, Brian, Gare, it's like you might as well, because again, like you talked about before, and it's like if you do end up getting that Sacco, you might as well get it with the most, lose that money with the most amount of money you can have, right?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Because every dollar counts, obviously. Like we all know that when it comes draft time, that $1 can make a huge difference between getting the hog that you want and not. So might as well. But other than that, not a whole lot of other action. We'll see. Trade deadline. Hope to see some fireworks this week. So
I want to make trades.
Oh, I'm fiending for one.
Need it. Itching.
But yeah, let's go on to our segment here. So this segment, yeah, we've already kind of talked about predictions as far as what we think will happen at the trade deadline, kind of how the playoff push will look and everything. Don't really want to copy in the nut about. We thought about like doing trade, talking about trades or moves that people should make and stuff, but I think we got enough of that. So what we did was we took each team and we compared them to an NFL team. And so just going down the list of the standings here, just kind of comparing people's roster construction, the record to, an actual NFL team and if it made sense. So unfortunately, I'll just give a little precursor. There was no Cowboy team that was selected out there, which I was pretty bummed after we got done looking at them. Like, man, Cowboys are pretty fucking good this year, so somebody should have them, but
Yeah.
also
Well,
no
there's no
Pack.
Patriots.
Yeah,
There's no
no Patriots.
Patriots.
Hey, no bias in this. Wow.
Damn tough. But yeah, we basically just went down power rankings, right? And then we just kind of picked teams from this. And if you kind of look at NFL power rankings, it probably goes in similar order, just kind of spaced out with some teams not in there, obviously, because it's 14 versus 32. But lucky enough for me, I got to choose my own team that I compare myself to.
Yeah.
uh, and that's, I guess, what we'll start off here is myself. And I chose the Chiefs. And the reason why I chose the Chiefs is, for one, I would go Bills, but Bills, I don't. My defense has been pretty shitty this year. Like I'm underneath the season average, so my defense isn't quite that good. The Chiefs' defense isn't quite that good. It's decent, but you got firepower when it comes to the offense. So I think you know you have plenty of weapons with the Chiefs, things like that. You can score plenty of points. I'm top four in the league in scoring, so I have the offense there. My defense is a little bit lower, and then also, my points allowed this year as well is on the lower end too. So I think the Chiefs kind of like summarize that up a lot, right? Like they don't really have to play the craziest defense and keep people from scoring the most amount of points because their offense kind of make up for it. So I went with Chiefs, and then nobody should have got the Eagles. I would have put in myself the Eagles, but I'm not undefeated. So
Yeah. Nobody was deserving the Eagles. Overrated anyways, my opinion. So
yeah. And so
um
we're just
yeah,
gonna go in this order. So me, you. Yeah. So
yeah. So I had Jaden and I picked the Bills for Jaden. Couple reasons for it. Um, namely QB. So him having Jalen Hurts being MVP candidate. Remind me of Josh Allen. And then his wide receivers, and this is what I always like think with Jaden every year that we play, is Jaden's always got hog wide receivers. And so I think about like the Bills having Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, like really solid wide receiving core. And Jaden's getting that production from him all the time. And then he just has consistency in his running backs as well. Mainly just coming from Kenneth Walker. David Montgomery's kind of, but and I actually think Kenneth Walker's kind of more of a star at this point. Like I really like Kenneth Walker, but Dingletary has actually been pretty solid this year, and so it kind of reminds me of just like consistent play. Like you're gonna get good production out of them, but they're not gonna like be over the top. Except sometimes Kenneth Walker blows up, but then it's also just because that Jaden's got really good defense, and hey, sure enough, he's got the Bills D blue wall baby, and he's got their kicker. So I mean, you know, matches up pretty well. Jaden's teaching this year, and just like the Bills are, yeah, go blue wall.
yeah, there you go. The blue wall. So we go next. Then I got Cleaner, so I got Alec, and I went with the Vikings on this one. Having a great year, consistently winning, which Cleaner has done in this league, and also they just get it done, right? Like I don't think anything's crazy about the Vikings. I think their defense is good. I think their offense is good, and they just find a way to win. And kind of a testament to that is last week. Cleaner found a way to win. That was the biggest thing. They have a couple, big name players on the team. When you think of the offense, right? But then you kind of look at the defense, and it's like, all right, there's a couple people here that are pretty good, but there's nothing too crazy about the Vikings. And Cleaner's team is kind of the same thing. They're consistent, nothing too flashy, but they also don't come up short. So I like the Vikings for Cleaner.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good comparison. It is really weird to me too that the Vikings are actually 7-1,
Yeah, I
which is
keep
just kind
forgetting
of weird
about
to
that.
me. Kind of weird to me that Cleaner's 6-3. I didn't think a rookie would come in here and teach us lessons like that, but here we are. So good on
Yeah,
you,
there you go.
man.
Get taught.
So up next, yeah, Gabi here. And so Gabi, I kind of went a couple different, I was thinking about a couple different teams, but what I ultimately landed on was the Dolphins. So reason I say that is because I love Gabi's wide receiver duo. I think it's arguably, I mean, even it's up there, put up there with mine, of course, but but no,
Right.
AJ Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, it's like that 1-2 punch reminds me of like the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, just always gonna be hogging out. Like Gabi doesn't have to really worry about his wide receivers ever. Like they're always gonna be teaching. And then, just like with the Dolphins, they have like that, well, especially now with Jeff Wilson, but it's like that 1A, 2A kind of running back. And they're like running backs that like don't jump off the page at you, but they get the job done for you as well. And fuck Joe Mixon. I'm not really counting his last week, but it's like, you can feel comfortable still getting him out there. And same with Professor Pleaser. They're not like flashy names. Everybody's rushing out to get them, but they're going to go out there and get you production and be able to win you a matchup. And
Hmm.
then it's kind of the same thing, right? It's like the Dolphins have just been kind of finding a way to get wins, and I mean that's what Gabi's been doing. And just like the Dolphins too, it's like Dolphins could go out there and put up a shit ton of points, and then they could have like a dud week, right? But they're still finding a way to win. And it's the same with Gabi. At first, he was having these like up and down play from his team, but now it's like he's out there just putting up crazy points. And so, um, you know, Dolphins, I'm not really sure if they're like an actual legitimate contender. Kind of feel the same way about Gabi's team, but it doesn't really matter right now. Both, Dolphins and him are winning. So
Okay.
ultimately, I didn't want to give it to B. Johns though, because I don't feel like he's deserving of his own team.
No. And yeah, so I got B John's next, and he's the Bengals. He's the Bengals because I mean, yeah, the Bengals. I believe they have a winning record, but like, who cares? Like, they just haven't. They have all this star power, right? You have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. You have Joe Mixon. Tyler Boyd is a great wide receiver three. Joe Burrow. They paid a lot of money for their offensive line. Their defense was a Super Bowl caliber defense last year, and they still are managing to be mediocre. And they always find ways to put themselves in these tight positions. Last week against the Panthers, throw that out the window because the Panthers sucked ass and they don't know what they're doing. But I think Bijan's the same way. Guess what? One of your top players is always injured all the time. Same thing with we had Jamar Chase. T Higgins has been out quite a bit, and then years prior, right? Joe Burrow went down. Things like that. Joe Mixon has been banged up over the years. So I think that's a real it's indicative of who B Johns is as like a fantasy owner. This especially this season, right? He has all of these studs on his team. You think that this guy was supposed to be a number one seed. However, it's just not performing the way it should be. Still got a winning record, but just not performing. So I think he's the Bengals for sure.
Yeah, no, it's solid. Thought he was supposed to be a number one contender, but yet smoke screen lifted.
Yeah.
For me, I have Pate up next, and so I picked the Chargers for Pate, and the reason I picked the Chargers because the Chargers, just like Pate, have so much talent on their roster, right? But they've had such an up and down season. Same with Pate, and I know Pate grilled me on this before for talking about this on Wilson time about how Pate just always has to deal with injuries and it's just kind of like a historical thing for him. Well, it's the same with the Chargers, right? Mike Williams has been he's been banged up in a couple different years. Keenan Allen just can't get over the hamstrings. Austin Eckler's been banged up at points of time in his career. Um, they got J.C. Jackson that went down with that knee injury. So it's just like they were supposed to have really solid defense, fell back. Um, but for Pate, also comes down to the suspect quarterback play, which is so weird to say with Justin Herbert, considering he was supposed to be an MVP candidate coming in, but he just has not looked good this year. So it's just like the suspect QB play. I like um Pate's running backs. It's just, you know, which it's hard to compare to Austin Eckler because he's been teaching, but he was kind of suspect at the beginning of the year. But it really just comes for me, it's all about the injuries. It's just like Pate is dealing with so many injuries, and so are the Chargers. It's just like it goes hand in hand with both of them. But they got the talent, it's like if they could put it together, both Chargers and Pate would be legitimate contenders. It's just, is it going to fall into place like that? So we ended up on the Chargers for me.
Yeah, I like the Chargers. Always come up short. That's always the problem.
Yeah.
Which has been Pate's kryptonite in the playoffs in recent years. Now let's go to Diz. So Diz, you're the Browns, and the reason why he's the Browns is because he's got that dog in him. And the reason I say he's got that dog in him is because the man is not. They're not outscoring anybody by any means any given week. Like it's going to come down to a hard grit nose battle. And if you look at it, Diz is one of the least amount of points scored and also last in points allowed too. So he's always in these tight knit races and he can't just pull ahead. I feel like the Browns always do this. Also, the man's led by Derrick Henry. He's just that's the only thing you got going for you. Nick Chubb, only thing going for the Browns this year. Like that is your staple. That's the lead horse. That's whatever you want to call it. That's basically steering the team whatever
Identity.
direction. Yeah. And so I'm going with the Browns with this because, like I said, his team, it reminds me of a Browns team. Like if he keeps Derek Carr in there, that just reminds me of Jacoby Brissett. Like nothing crazy. Like he's got a safe floor, but his ceiling's capped too. So I don't know. Just I like the Browns for him because, like I said, he got that dog in him. Because every week he's always in like a backyard like fist fight or something like that, trying to win trying to win a game.
Now that's a
Um,
Raider fan for you.
yeah, go nation. So I like the Browns for Diz.
Oh, that's good. He's a dog. All right, so up next I got Jesse, right? So I picked the Falcons for Jesse, and which is, you kind of be surprised by that a little bit, right? Because you don't really think like you'd be like, okay, Jesse's putting up so many points. Why would you pick the Falcons? Well, the Falcons are actually like top six in scoring in the NFL this year, which is like really weird to think about because I feel like they suck, but they put up points. And so I picked that, and really, a couple reasons. The Falcons they got good like wide receivers, pass catchers, tight end, just like Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts. Jesse's got Jalen Waddle, that Drake London. I do like Drake London a lot. And then the running backs put up points. But hasn't been anything like super flashy again. But Jesse's been getting production, obviously out of Dalvin Cook. Khalil Herbert's actually been doing it. It's just hasn't really been talked about a whole lot. Kind of the same thing with the Falcons. And then, only thing that kind of doesn't really make sense with this, the Josh Allen compared to like Marcus Mariota. But it's just mainly because his team puts up so many points, yet still losing. And it's like the Falcons. I mean, they put up a good amount of points. They just can't seem to get the victories. So, and also, just another thing I was thinking about is, and I know this is not Jesse's control, but the points against just reminds me of like the Falcons defense being so shitty. It's like Jesse getting so many points scored against them. So it doesn't matter how many points he puts up, just like the Falcons, like they still lose. Just
Yeah.
too much to overcome.
No, I like the Falcons. Yeah, the Falcons, they're sneaky. They're not too bad, right? They're like 4-5 this year or something like that. I can't remember what they are, but they're like right at that 500 mark. Um,
Yeah, right in line with Jesse's team. Yeah.
yeah. And so now I got you, and so I went the Cardinals for yours because I think of the Cardinals, and there's like players on the team that I like so much, like not even just offensively, but like defensively, like Byron Murphy, Byron, what's his name? Byron Murphy Bunting or Bunting Murphy. He's a cornerback. He used to play. He used to play for the Bucks. But anyways, he's a very
Little
good cornerback.
BB.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know his name, but I like him. Isaiah Simmons, J.J. Watt, like Buda Baker. Like, there's a lot of players I like, but then you look at the offense, and it reminds me of your team in the sense that you got DeAndre Hopkins, you have Kyler Murray, you have you have Zach Ertz, a very viable tight end, but then also at the same time, and I don't think anybody realized this, James Conner is like literally when they actually give him the ball this year, he averages like 6 yards a carry. So I'm just saying he's a good player, but I
You
just
should
feel like
trade
the
for
play.
him.
I think yeah, I think the problem is that it's just like the play calling, right? And I think in fantasy this year, it hasn't been necessarily been your fault, but it's been like the fantasy play calling in the sense that like, oh, Jamar Chase goes out right when you start heating up, right? Okay, here we go. Oh, now your bye weeks are coming in. Or you trading away like ETN, right? And keeping Edwards Hilaire. Like there were certain things that could have been done a little bit differently. And there's a possibility that you look at the team, you're like, that should be a winning record team. They have the talent. It's just like, can they get it all together, put it all into a melting pot, and get it, the right concoction to get a W every single week? And I think they have that ability to. It's just, can everything come together at the right moment? And I think right now for you, it's kind of the same thing. Right now, this is like do or die. Kind of like we were saying with Cal earlier. If you lose a game, you're gonna have to. You got the points for, which is nice, but still, record wise, you're gonna have to keep up with everybody else. So every game matters, and I think for the Cardinals right now, it's the same thing. You know, they're losing out on the division week by week because the Seahawks are doing it. So they just need to be consistent, and if they can be consistent and get the W's, I think they should be a playoff caliber team. It's just whether everything can come together right or not.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Ah, it's the beginning of this year that screwed me, but that's fine. We will figure it out, just like Kyler Murray will, I think.
Yeah, hopefully.
Um, so kind of the same thing actually for the next one, Cal, and I picked the Bucks for him. I mean, mainly because the dude was pretty much the Bucks for most of the year. So, outside the obvious, having Godwin and Tom, but Cal's kind of the same thing, right? Has a lot of talent. Just can you put it together and win some games? Can you put up the points? And I think it's like there's flashes of it, right? And especially as of late for Cal, he has flashed ability to put up some points and get some victories. But it's like, is it too late for that? And I think that's where Cal's at in his season is he's made these moves and yeah, probably has a team that could put up, could do it, but it has his record fallen too far down below like where he needed to be at this point. And so I don't know. I look at it and it's like the Bucks. Can he like put it together, get into the playoffs, and then potentially go win that chip? Because I feel like Cal has a really good team, but just like the Bucks, I mean, unless they start getting together, pretty quick, are they going to slide out? That luckily the Bucks play in a shitty division, and maybe that's like the same thing with Cal. It's like at the bottom down there, it's like people kind of keep stumbling and shuffling. You'll keep him in the mix and allow him to squeak into the playoffs, and then see what happens when he actually gets in there. And it's kind of the same thing. Like if you look at Tom, if he sneaks into the playoffs, like you gonna bet on Tom, losing? I don't know. It's hard to say, but
Yeah.
plus Cal has good wide receivers, just like the Bucks do. It's just gonna be a matter of can he put it all together.
Basically, Cal's a buck.
Cal is a bug, literally. Didn't
Yeah.
even start Deshaun Watson when he comes back. Should just keep running out that Tom. I know he loves that TB12 too much.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Yeah, you own his cookbook. You might as well just keep him in. All right. I got COD next, and big surprise. We're going to put him at the Steelers, just right at the bottom,
Whoa,
right at the bottom of the barrel with his favorite team in the league. Um,
that steel curtain.
the man's got Fryermuth. He had Chase Claypool at one time. He had Najee Harris. He has Najee Harris, right? Like the dude's just a Steeler through and through, and just But also, the Steelers just suck ass, and COD sucks ass too. So I just really don't have much to say about this besides COD. COD's favorite team is Steelers. He has a lot of Steelers on his team, and him and the Steelers both suck ass.
That's that deep analysis for me.
It's just it fit perfectly, man. Like I just think that's just great for him.
It's
Welcome,
too,
COD.
yeah. Football's gotta be fun for him.
Go milk those mares, baby.
COD's too busy milking the mares out there on Sundays to be watching football.
Oh god. Yep, that's COD.
He's got to bring home that fresh milk. All right, I got Nut next. Picked the Broncos for Nut, probably because he rode their dick for so long, but
Favorite team.
yeah, favorite team. Yeah, it's just a bad QB play. Obviously having Javonte Williams at the beginning of the year, but then, losing him to injury. And I feel like for Nut, he had high aspirations going into this year. I think he thought that his team was pretty solid, especially when Brees Hall, and it just keeps crashing back down. It's just not the year that he pictured it to be. And I feel like that's the Broncos, right? It's like made all these moves. They thought they had good talent, which is still, I feel like they still do have some decent talent, but it just hasn't came together at all. And just kind of leaves you scratching your head like, what the fuck happened? And I think that's where Nuts at. It's just like, I don't know what the fuck happened this year, but let's ride. So
I would say this too. That this kind of reminds me of it a little bit. Like he put all his eggs in one basket, right? Like he kept Javonte Williams for the highest keeper price in the league, and I remember him doing that and being like, you guys are probably going to be scratching your head, blah blah blah. It's just like the Broncos, right? Put all their eggs in with Russell Wilson, and the guy's just been a dud. And obviously Javonte went out, so kind of reminds me of each other right there.
totally, with you.
My last one is going to be Brian, and this man's the Lions. So just like Dan Campbell, dude, like Brian's just chomping at people's knees. Like I feel like he's scratching, dude. He's doing all the dirty things. He's like scratching and clawing, trying to get W's and stuff. And he's came close many of times. And there was a point in time where like I felt like he was like doing good, and then the next like week, like it just came crashing down. And that's the thing with the Lions, right? Because the Lions were putting up so many points and they were barely losing, and they were like losing these like in the trench games like that you're like, oh, it could go either way. But also at the same time, the Lions suck too. So and Brian sucks. So like I feel like Brian has been working his ass off this year trying to make sure he didn't just sell his team and just be like, I sold my team. That's what I did. I feel like he's been trying really hard to be like, I sold my team, but I also try to compete at the same time, which is great. That's exactly what you want to do. It's just he keeps coming up short. That's what the Lions do. Like they just keep on coming up short in these
Yeah,
games. And some game right, they were leading the league in scoring at one point. And there's sometimes Brian will go off for good games, and then the next week it's just a complete dud. So I just feel like that's kind of the epitome of Brian's season right there is what the Lions are experiencing. Just you know, very sad, but also I feel like Brian will be proud of the way that his years went, even though it's not going to be the way that he wanted it to end up.
he's managed his team the Dan Campbell way with
he's
pride.
he's biting at the kneecaps, man.
All right, to cap us off, we all know who it is. Crabbag himself. And of course, I had to put him with the crappiest team in the league, the Texans. I mean, there's just not a whole lot to say, honestly. Texans are shitty, Crabbag shitty. There was one lone bright spot for the Texans, which is Dameon Pierce, and it was kind of the same thing for Gary. It was Alvin Kamara for most of this year. And I mean, no matter what they do, doesn't matter. They lose. And they're just both Texans and Crabbag are just looking for next year, so it is what it is for them. Oh, Red, I think you froze on me. It's tough. take that. Unfortunately, not yet. But yeah, guess that really does it for our episode this week, boys. As always, thanks for tuning in. Nut, great podly once again.
Shout out. Yep.
Always enjoy it.
Waiting for that Gobby talks.
Yeah, definitely love the Gobby talks. Love just the pure shit talking. It's just soothing to hear sometimes.
And we're still waiting for that that Carrie's corner to come.
Well, dude, I think there's whispers about it.
Just every week. What? Huh?
I can hear it in the wind.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, hope to see some fireworks this week too. So,
Also,
trade deadline,
yeah, Thursday before the kickoff. So everybody remember.
Yeah. No, well,
And if you want to trade after Thursday, it's still available until Sunday.
Yeah. Just don't tell Nut.
Somehow we got to get in there and like code the system where it doesn't show that trades go through.
Watch Nut just calling up Sleeper. Like, we got to walk down security from Friday till Sunday.
Yeah, we got to breach. Man, that's funny. Well, yeah. Besides that, good luck everybody. Besides cleaner,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill your hole.
Same with you, crap bag. Don't trap me.
Yeah, I'm gonna shit in your bag. Yeah.
I'm using that house this week.
Maybe that should be like a Sacco punishment. If he takes the Sacco, we all just take a shit in the bag and just give it to him.
Maybe just like make him sit in the outhouse after we all shit in it.
Something has to do with crap. I don't know though. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. All right, boys. We'll see you all on the flip.